Okay, so let's unpack this. If you are watching this on YouTube right now, I want you to look at the image on the screen. And if you're listening, just picture this in your head.
It's a great visual to start with.
Right. It's this rainy night. The pavement is slick, reflecting all those neon city lights. And sitting right there is this incredibly sleek, futuristic Jaguar I-Pace.
Bristling with LiDAR sensors.
Exactly. LiDAR spinning on top, cameras tucked into every corner. I mean, it looks like it drove straight out of Cyberpunk 2077.
It's the quintessential image of the future. It really screams high-tech autonomy. It's the visual language of a machine that basically doesn't need us anymore.
It looks powerful. It looks completely independent. But then, well, look at the headline right next to the sci-fi machine. It stops you cold. It literally says, AI can drive itself. But it can't close a door.
It's a brutal juxtaposition. You have the absolute pinnacle of artificial intelligence on one side and then a very, very basic mechanical failure on the other.
It's hilarious, honestly, but it's also incredibly telling. And that's exactly what we are doing in today's deep dive. We're looking at a really specific, really fascinating slide deck that exposes this massive irony in the world of self-driving cars.
Because the reality is much messier than the marketing.
Totally. So for our YouTube audience, we were going to walk through this presentation slide by slide today because it uncovers how one of the most advanced AI companies in the world, Waymo, which is owned by Alphabet, by the way, is relying on a solution that is, well, let's just say it's incredibly low-tech.
And while it might look low-tech on the surface, I'd actually argue that what we are looking at here is a masterclass in business strategy and crisis management.
Oh, for sure.
Because this deck illustrates the massive gap between autonomous driving, which is simply the car moving down the street, and autonomous operation.
Which is the actual messy reality of running a fleet in a real city with real people. So our mission today is to move past that funny headline and figure out what happens when a robot that costs as much as a small house can't figure out how to shut its own door. Let's jump to the first slide here, the dispatch request.
This is the case study that really blew this whole story wide open.
Yeah, it's fascinating. If you look at the slide, you just see a screenshot of a smartphone. It looks like a completely standard DoorDash delivery request.
Just a regular Tuesday in the gig economy.
Right. And this actually happened in Atlanta. So picture this. You're a DoorDash driver. You're sitting in your car. Maybe you're waiting for a food order to come in. You get a ping.
You check the phone.
You look at the phone, and the payout is $11.25. Not a fortune, but hey, not bad for a quick trip. You accept it. But then you look at the task description. It does not say, pick up burrito from Chipotle.
No, it says task. Close the door of a Waymo vehicle. And look at the fine print on the bottom of the slide there. No pickup or delivery required.
That is the best part to me. You aren't delivering food. You aren't driving the car. You are literally being paid $11 to walk up to a robot, shut the door because some passenger just left it open, and walk away.
It sounds totally absurd, but both Waymo and DoorDash have actually confirmed this is a real, active pilot program. In the industry, they call this human-assisted edge case resolution.
Human-assisted edge case resolution. That is a very fancy, very expensive-sounding way of saying we need a thumb to push a latch.
It is. But think about the brilliance of it from a logistics standpoint. You have a distributed workforce DoorDashers already moving through the city.
They're already everywhere.
Right. They are everywhere. So why build your own entirely new network of technicians when you can just rent someone else's network for 5 minutes?
I mean, I get the economics of it, and we will definitely get deeper into that. But before we do, I just have to ask the obvious question here.
Yeah.
Because my first thought was, why doesn't the car just drive off?
Right. Just hit the gas.
Yeah, gravity will close the door or the wind will catch it and slam it shut. I've driven my own car with the door slightly ajar before. The car beeps at you, sure, but it still moves.
That is a very human way to solve the problem. But for a robot, that is strictly impossible. If we look at the next slide here, the technical constraint, it explains exactly why that is a terrible idea for an autonomous vehicle.
Okay, let's break down what we're seeing here.
So the slide lists 3 key factors. The first one is sensor lock. The vehicle is instantly immobilized the second a door ajar signal is detected.
So it's a hard-coded rule.
It is an absolute safety protocol. You cannot have a 2-ton vehicle moving autonomously down a busy street with a door flapping open.
Makes total sense. You don't want a robotaxi clotheslining a cyclist or sideswiping a parked car because the door was sticking out?
Precisely. The liability would be astronomical. But the second point on the slide is no remote override. This one is crucial. The remote operations team, the people sitting in a command center somewhere monitoring these cars, they have no mechanism to physically close the door.
Even though they can see it's open?
Right, they can see it via the cameras, they can even yell at people through the exterior speakers, but they cannot reach out and shut it.
So the car enters what the slide calls a failure state.
Yes. Human intervention required. The car is essentially bricked. It becomes a very expensive statue. It literally cannot move an inch until a physical human hand resolves the issue.
And that leads us to the money question. If you have a bricked car sitting in the middle of traffic in Atlanta, who do you call?
Moving to the next slide, cost optimization. Through infrastructure, we see this comparison between the old way and this new DoorDash pilot.
And this is where the business logic becomes super fascinating. Look at the previous solution on the left side of the slide there. Waymo used to rely on traditional roadside assistance services, companies like Honk.
Okay, so these are the people you normally call when you have a flat tire or a dead battery, right?
Exactly. And look at the price tag there for that service.
$22 to $24 per dispatch. Right. But honestly, it's not even just the cost, it's the massive inefficiency. Roadside assistance infrastructure is designed for actual mechanical failures. It's built for tow trucks, tire changes, dead batteries.
Not a door being open.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sending a tow truck driver or a specialized mechanic out just to shut a door is like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut.
It's massive overkill. And probably really slow, too. I mean, think about how long you usually wait for a tow truck. 45 minutes? An hour?
At least. Now look at the right side of the slide. Current pilot. The DoorDash approach. The cost drops immediately to $11.25.
That is a 50% reduction in resolution costs right off the bat.
And crucially, it maintains or actually even improves response times. Because of the sheer density of food delivery drivers, there is almost always a DoorDash driver closer to that stranded car than a tow truck would be.
So they're cutting the budget in half by realizing they don't need a mechanic. They just need a person. Literally any person with a functioning hand.
Exactly. The slide calls it leveraging existing on-demand workforce infrastructure. They aren't going out and building a new team. They are just renting someone else's network on the fly.
It's so smart, but it also feels, I don't know, a little ironic. Which brings us perfectly to the next slide, the perception problem.
This slide captures the public response perfectly. The quote at the top says it all. The irony is striking. The future of automation depends on gig workers handling its edge cases.
If you look at the visuals on this slide, these mock-ups of social media chats and comments, people are just having a field day with this. It feels like such a contradiction. You have these huge tech companies marketing level 4 autonomous vehicles. They're calling it the future of transport.
And then behind the curtain.
Yeah, behind the curtain, it's a guy named Dave with a hot DoorDash bag shut in the door.
It definitely fuels skepticism. The slide notes that the public sentiment focuses a lot on this gap between the marketing of autonomous vehicles and the gritty reality of needing a human to do such a basic task. It really highlights that we are entering a hybrid human-machine workforce, not a purely machine one.
But is it fair to say the car isn't autonomous because of this?
Yeah.
I mean, it drives itself, right? The door's in the steering wheel.
That is exactly the nuance we need to discuss here. Let's look at the next slide, the autonomy stack reality. This visual is really helpful for breaking down what is actually happening under the hood.
Okay, so we have these different building blocks here. On the bottom left, we have autonomous driving.
And notice the description under that. Core driving solved in defined domains. This is a really important distinction. The AI knows how to steer, it knows how to brake, it knows all the traffic laws. As a driving machine, it is incredibly competent.
But then you have all these other blocks stacked up, weather adaptation, construction zones.
Right. And the big one for our discussion today, human behavior and mechanics. This is where the open door issue lives. The slide is making a very clear distinction between autonomous driving and autonomous operation.
Okay, let's unpack that. What is the actual difference between driving and operating?
Autonomous driving is just navigating the road. It's the software making real-time decisions about movement. Autonomous operation is handling the entire life cycle of a ride without human support.
Which is way broader.
Much broader. That includes dealing with rain, fog, construction signs that change daily, and yes, passengers who simply forget to close a door when they get out. Waymo has largely solved the driving. They have not solved the chaos of the real world.
It's like being an incredibly skilled pilot but not knowing how to refuel the plane or close the cargo hatch.
Or a Michelin star chef who doesn't know how to wash the dishes. The operation requires handling every single physical interaction. And right now, humans are still the best operational support tool we have.
Speaking of tools, I want to talk about the cars themselves for a second. Why is this even a problem? I mean, I have been in regular minivans that have automatic sliding doors. Why don't the doors just close automatically on these billion-dollar high-tech robots?
That is the billion-dollar question. And moving to the next slide, design philosophy, we see a side-by-side comparison that answers exactly that.
This is a really stark comparison. On the left, you have the Zoox vehicle. Have you seen these driving around yet?
Yes, the toaster cars.
Yeah, they look like little futuristic carriage pods. No steering wheel at all. The seats are just facing each other.
Zoox is what the slide calls a purpose-built robotaxi. They were designed completely from the ground up, literally from a blank sheet of paper, to be driverless. And because of that, look at the features listed there. Automatic sliding doors standard.
Just like a subway train.
Exactly. Or a minivan. You press a button, they slide shut. Problem solved. The hardware was specifically designed for the use case of no driver being present.
But Waymo isn't using a custom toaster pad.
No. Look at the right side of the slide. The Waymo approach. They are using retrofitted production vehicles, specifically the Jaguar I-Pace.
Which is a very nice traditional luxury SUV.
A luxury SUV designed for humans who drive. It has traditional manual car doors because Jaguar naturally assumed a human would always be sitting there to pull the handle.
So Waymo chose the Jaguar because why? I mean, if they knew the doors would be an issue, why use a regular car?
Speed to market. The slide notes the trade-off explicitly right here. Faster deployment timeline. By using a car that already exists, that is already fully crash tested and safety rated by regulators, they could get on the road years earlier than Zoox.
That makes sense.
Zoox spent years reinventing the wheel or the door in this case. Waymo just went out and bought a car.
But by buying an off-the-shelf car, the slide says they inherited legacy design constraints.
Precisely. They bought speed, but they paid for it with operational complexity later on. Different engineering trade-offs lead to different operational challenges. Zoox spent years building a door that closes itself. Waymo spent years building an AI driver, and now they have to hire door dashers to be the door closer.
It really highlights how hardware and software have to evolve together. You can't just slap a supercomputer onto a 2020 chassis and expect it to magically become a spaceship.
Well, you can, but you're going to need $11 for every door left open.
Right. Let's actually talk about that business model again. The next slide is titled Strategic Infrastructure Arbitrage, which, I gotta say, sounds like something you'd hear in a boardroom at a venture capital firm.
It's a very accurate term, though. Arbitrage is simply about taking advantage of a price difference in two markets. Here, they are taking advantage of an infrastructure difference.
Break that down for us. What are they actually arbitrating here?
Well, the slide lists 3 core benefits. First, avoid heavy infrastructure. If Waymo didn't use DoorDash, they would need to buy their own fleet of service vehicles. They would need to hire full-time technicians, pay for their gas, their insurance, and just have them sitting around waiting for a door to open somewhere in the city.
Which is incredibly expensive if the door only opens, say, once a day.
Yeah.
You are literally paying people salaries to do nothing.
Exactly. That's the second point. Leverage existing networks. DoorDash has already done all the hard work. They have the worker distribution figured out. They have the payment systems built. They have the routing algorithms. Waymo is basically just plugging into a power grid that already exists.
And then the third point is the variable cost structure.
That's the key business insight of this whole pilot. You pay only for incidents that occur. You pay per task. You don't pay a fixed salary for someone to sit in a break room for 8 hours. It transforms a fixed cost salaried employees into a variable cost.
It's scaling on demand. It's literally the AWS model applied to physical labor.
It is. It really is. And it raises a massive question about the future of work. Which brings us right to the next slide, the labor reorganization question.
This is the slide with the big bold text. The slide asks, is the emerging model one where humans primarily handle exceptions?
And the answer seems to be a resounding yes. Look at the charts on the next slide, the 955 operating model. This visualizes it perfectly. You have this massive blue circle representing 95%. That is autonomous operation. Standard routes, normal weather conditions, polite passengers who remember to close their doors.
That's the robot doing its thing flawlessly.
But then you have this little sliver, the 5%, human intervention. The long tail of edge cases.
And the text on the slide says, automation doesn't eliminate humans. It redistributes them to handle the long tail of exceptions.
That 5% is the expensive gap. It's the whole difference between mostly autonomous and fully autonomous. And here's the basic economic reality today. Humans are currently the most cost-effective way to bridge that 5% gap. We are the ultimate general-purpose robots. We can walk, we can see, we have versatile hands, and we can follow complex instructions.
So we aren't disappearing from the equation. We are just moving out to the fringes. We are becoming the exception handlers.
Yes. In this emerging model, the human isn't the driver anymore. The human is the troubleshooter. The human is the fail-safe.
It reminds me of the next slide, the invisible support layer. Because when you see a Waymo drive by on the street, it looks like a ghost ship. It looks totally empty. But this slide shows us who is actually pulling the strings.
It definitely pulls back the curtain. We tend to think of these cars as completely independent agents. But look at the 4 categories listed here. You have remote operators who step in to give navigation guidance when the car gets confused by, say, a weirdly placed traffic cone.
You have maintenance teams for charging and cleaning. Because I guess robots can't vacuum their own back seats just yet.
Right. And you have edge case responders for serious things like accidents, and now gig workers for physical interventions like closing doors.
The slide explicitly says, the robotaxi appears independent to passengers. The operational reality requires extensive human infrastructure operating behind the scenes.
It's an illusion of independence. The car itself is just the tip of the iceberg. The base of that iceberg is thousands of humans working around the clock, ensuring that car doesn't get stuck, dirty, or uncharged.
So are we just stuck here forever? Are we destined to be the door closers for our robot overlords for eternity? Let's look at the forward-looking slide.
This is the engineering the edge cases away slide. And the short answer is probably not. This is a temporary state of affairs.
The slide mentions current development. It says Waymo is reportedly working on next-gen vehicles right now.
Yes. Specifically, they are moving toward vehicle platforms that look a lot more like the Zoox design, with improved capabilities. Enhanced weather resistance, much better mechanical reliability, and notice the key bullet point there, likely, automated door mechanisms.
So they're going to build the automatic door eventually.
It's just a simple math equation. The slide puts it perfectly. Every persistent edge case eventually justifies an engineering solution.
It's just about cost, isn't it?
Totally. Right now, paying a DoorDasher $11 occasionally is way cheaper than recalling and re-engineering an entire fleet of Jaguars to have auto-closing doors. But once the fleet scales up to tens of thousands of cars, or if the incident frequency rises, the cost of paying those gig workers will eventually exceed the cost of the engineering fix.
And once they cross that line...
Once that line is crossed, they will build the doors.
So the DoorDash pilot is just a Band-Aid.
It's a bridge. It gets them through this awkward teenage phase of deployment until the hardware finally catches up to the software.
That brings us to the final slide of the deck here, the hybrid future. This conclusion slide has a really interesting cycle on it.
It breaks down the evolution of automation into 3 distinct steps. Step 1, AI handles scale. That's the core driving. Step 2, humans handle exceptions. That's the DoorDashers. Step 3, system evolves.
Frequent exceptions become automated over time.
This is the endless cycle of technology. Today, closing a door is a human job. Tomorrow, a specialized motor does it. But then a brand new edge case will appear. Maybe the car gets stuck in deep snow. Humans will be dispatched to handle that, and then eventually the next generation of car will get heated tires or better traction control AI.
The slide has a quote at the bottom that I really love. It says, today's door closer is tomorrow's AI operations supervisor. Automation is a continuous redefinition of where humans add value.
That is the ultimate key takeaway here. We tend to think of automation as this sheer cliff. One day we have jobs, the very next day we don't. But it's actually a shifting landscape. The line of what the machine can do keeps moving forward, and we just have to keep moving to the places the machine can't reach yet.
So it's not a failure that Waymo still needs humans. It's just operational realism.
Precisely. It's growing pains. And frankly, using a gig worker to close a door is an incredibly clever solution to a growing pain. It solves the problem today without waiting 5 years for an entirely new car design.
Okay, let's recap this whole journey. We started with what looked like a funny screenshot of an $11 gig to close a door in Atlanta.
Which seemed completely ridiculous at first glance.
But then we dug in and realized it's actually a brilliant example of infrastructure arbitrage. Waymo is using an existing delivery network to solve a legacy design constraint because their Jaguars simply weren't built to be robots from day one.
And we learned about the 955 model, the whole idea that AI does the heavy lifting, but humans remain absolutely essential for that expensive, messy 5% of edge cases.
And finally, we saw that this is temporary. The humans are just filling the physical gap until the engineers build a better door.
Which they inevitably will.
It really changes how I look at these self-driving cars.
Yeah.
The next time I see one on the road, I won't just see the sensors spinning on top. I'm going to be thinking about the invisible army of people working behind the scenes, keeping it moving.
And you might want to double check if the door is fully closed. You could save Waymo $11.
There you go. And here is a thought for you listening and for those watching on YouTube. We talk so much about AI taking over human jobs, but in this specific case, AI is actually creating a weird, brand new micro-job market.
It's a fascinating trend.
It makes you wonder, as these autonomous systems get more and more complex, what other incredibly simple human tasks will become paid gigs? Will we get paid a few bucks to wipe mud off a sensor, to wave a confused car through a complex intersection?
It's definitely worth considering. The human in the loop might become a permanent gig economy category all its own.
The future isn't just about robots taking over. It's robots and us following them around, fixing their little mistakes. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure.
Keep your doors closed, everyone. We'll see you in the next deep dive.